Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering human creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Lee Koonce, who serves as president and artistic director of Gateways Music Festival. Lee, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aaron. It's great to be here.
Well, so this is very, very special for me because literally for multiple decades, not to age us, I've had the direct opportunity to see firsthand the impact of your work and your leadership in our field across a breadth of organizations and leadership positions and different cities. And so it's really just an honor to be able to, and as you well know, you were one of the very first people that I reached out to in the early days of Sphinx to gain guidance and advice and really a sense of how to kind of really build impact in our field. So first and foremost, just thank you for all of your leadership in our field.
You're welcome. And you just have to tell everybody that we were 12 years old when we started, right?
Exactly. So first, I think just for our audience, it would be great. Could you kind of just share a little about Gateways, which has such a rich legacy and history, especially obviously relating to diversity in our field?
Sure, I'm happy to. First, Aaron, thanks so much for inviting me to talk. I can talk forever about Gateways, as you probably know, but it's an exciting time for us. Gateways will be 30 years old next year, which is hard to believe. I think we're 29 years old this year. We were founded by Arminta Hummings Dumasani, who is an extraordinary award-winning concert pianist. And she brought Gateways in 1995 to Rochester, New York, where we've been based ever since. And our mission is to support and connect professional classical musicians of African descent and enlighten and inspire communities through the power of performance. And we do that mainly through our week-long festival, which includes orchestra performances, chamber music performances, film series, lectures, panel discussions, and most of them based in the community, because that was where Arminta founded Gateways. Gateways was for 25 years of its history, all volunteer run, volunteer led, and all the money was raised by volunteers. And that was really critical. That was crucial for Arminta. And so our roots are in the community and they remain there. So that's a little bit about Gateways.
Absolutely awesome. And of course, the impact of musicians on communities has been truly extraordinary. And of course, Gateways has some historic things coming up this month, which I'll get to in just a second. But just thought I'd kind of ask you or get your sense, and for our audience, a lot of our audience are working in their respective institutions, organizations, and obviously a lot of them, especially in the last couple of years, have been thinking about and or working on diversity and issues relating to it, even if their direct position may not be a diversity related position. And just wondering kind of your sense of where things are at, where we are at as a field, and any kind of advice or guidance you would give to those who are at institutions or organizations and just trying to think about what to do, where their priorities should be, things like that.
Yeah, this could be the entire topic of our conversation, as you know. I would want to begin by saying that while much of my work in this field has been in the area of diversity, first at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, where I was director of community relations, Gateways does not think of itself as a diversity organization or diversity initiative. It is important to us. We support that work, but it is not our primary mission. Our primary mission is to strengthen and build this community of Black professional classical musicians. And if that leads to diversity in the field, which we believe that it does, that is great, but it is not our primary mission. So I'll start out by saying that. I think that we have made progress in the many years I've been involved in this work. I think in recent years, there has been a deepening of the conversation about diversity and equity and inclusion in our field, which is helpful. But we have a long way to go. There is a lot more work to do, Aaron, as you well know, despite the strides that we've made. And as it relates to people of African descent, which is what Gateway's primary work is about, people of African descent in classical music, musicians and audiences, that work is really challenging because the number of young Black kids we see learning to play musical instruments is still very, very low. And until we really increase that critical mass of young Black kids coming into this pathway, I don't expect that we'll see very much change within the field in a really significant way. There are amazing players out there, incredible Black players out there, but my concern is that the pool is just not large enough. And the example I often use is the wonderful increase of Asian musicians in American orchestras. Well, that is the result of millions of young kids at a very early age from Asian countries and Asian backgrounds learning to play those instruments. And we lack that number. We lack that critical mass as it relates to Black kids. And so until we can address that issue, which I think has to be addressed through our public schools, especially in urban environments, I suspect that we'll be having similar conversations for the next 20 plus years about diversity in this field.
Got you. And for those who are looking at these issues of access, right, and education, there's people who say, you know what, we need to push public schools and this really has to be public funding, et cetera. And then there's those who say, you know, let's galvanize and engage our independent private nonprofits who are doing after school work, et cetera. Where do you think it's a combination? Do you think the onus is one or the other? What's your sense?
All of the above. You're absolutely right. You're saying all of those things and more. I think that it's important for those of us in the field who work in professional organizations to become fierce advocates for diversity, not just what happens in our concert halls, but what happens in our communities. And going beyond this concept of exposure. Exposure is terrific. If you bring kids to your concert hall and they have this extraordinary experience and they get like, oh my gosh, I just heard Beethoven. That's amazing. I want to know more about that. I want to know how to play. How do they go from that to picking up an instrument and learning how to play it? So we have to make the connection, and there have to just be more opportunities for access and opportunities, not just for a few, but for all.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of just
this sounds like our conversations for 20 years ago, doesn't it?
Right, exactly. So totally, absolutely. And so this is really extraordinary work of Gateways. We're so honored at Arts Engines. Gateways is one of our amazing creative partners. And so all of our audience on April 24th should find themselves in Carnegie Hall. And if you could share with us why and how is this historic for Gateways?
Yeah, it's historic for Gateways. It is historic for Carnegie Hall. But on April 24th, the Gateways Orchestra will make its Carnegie Hall debut on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Maybe as important as that, though, is that Carnegie Hall also wanted us to bring other aspects of the festival to New York City. So we start out in Rochester, rehearsals, some performances, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then Thursday of that week, starting on the 21st of April, we bring the festival to New York City. So on April the 21st, we begin with the guest artist recital of the Imani Wens, Friday, a panel discussion at the New York Library for Performing Arts. And then we do a mini version of our chamber music in the community. We're having 5 simultaneous chamber music concerts going on throughout New York City, throughout Manhattan. Wow. So at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Morgan Library, 92nd Street Y, the Schomburg Center, and the Morgan Library, all at the same time.
Wow.
And after that, the musicians kind of let their hair down, which you and I know nothing about, let their hair down and have this incredible jam session in the Times Square area. Saturday, master classes at Carnegie Hall's Weill Institute, a big chamber concert at the Cooper Union, and that leads us into the big performances on Sunday. So Gateways is about this week-long experience, and one of the things Carnegie Hall wanted us to do is to bring a kind of a snippet of that to New York City. So that's what we're doing. And it's historic for us, it's historic for Carnegie Hall. While there have been other all-Black orchestras at Carnegie Hall, Gateways will be the first one that's actually been on a Carnegie Hall season. So we are a part of their official season. And I'm thrilled to say that the concert is virtually sold out. There are very few seats left. So I'm really soft selling people going to buy tickets.
Right, exactly.
Because, and the sad part is that as much as I try to get our musicians to get tickets for their family and friends, a lot of them did not. And so now I'm getting the calls from them, but we can't get any tickets. We can't. And I've started literally in October on their cases to get the tickets.
Right.
So it's a wonderful thing. It's also disappointing in some ways too, because we've got folks who aren't going to be able to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is such a great situation to be in. And I think really demonstrates the importance of Gateways and the importance of the musicians and this music. And that clearly there is a demand and an interest and a need for this creative work. Is that kind of yours? Do you find yourself very, kind of buoyed and very optimistic about the future, given this response already before the concerts even happen?
I do. And, the ticket sales have been this tight since January. So, I think there were 200 tickets, 300 tickets left, I think, in January. And so it's just gotten tighter and tighter. But what has been fascinating to us is the national appeal of this concert. When the tickets first went on sale, a group of 100 people from Georgia bought like the majority of the boxes. We have people coming from California, just everywhere. It's just extraordinary to me. And I assumed that it would be mostly a New York audience, and I think it will be mostly a New York audience, but it really is a national audience, and that is extraordinary to me. And it actually supports what our musicians and board have talked about in our strategic planning, which is that our future is as a touring orchestra. So this is, in our minds, the launching point for the orchestra to go on tour. And there's nothing like seeing, we have 125 people in the orchestra. The orchestra at any one time has about 100 people in it, 100 Black faces on a stage playing at this high level. Our musicians are players in major symphony orchestras, they're faculty at conservatories and music schools around the country, they're freelancers. And to see that mass of Black faces of all of our hues on the stage of a place like Carnegie Hall or any hall is so powerful. And so we feel that needs to be seen around the country. So we are looking forward to taking our program, the festival orchestra, the chamber music program, all of that on tour around the country in the future.
Absolutely awesome. Well, and so all of our partners who are watching
exactly.
Here and checking out this episode, you should be at Carnegie Hall and giving Lee a call to find out what dates are available.
And my number is, no, just kidding.
Yes, yeah. So no, it's truly extraordinary work. Just major congratulations and on everything and this impact for our field. Unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but I always like to ask of our guests, this work that we're doing, we're talking about all of these successes and people are like, oh, this is amazing. So everything must just be easy for Lee. But obviously we know leadership is usually not that way. And just curious on the days that are tough and when it feels like, that you're not able to have the impact you want to have, or certain challenges arise, where do you turn for your strength, for inspiration as a leader?
Yeah, there are lots of things I think in our lives that we turn to for inspiration and leadership. And for me, I think that getting away from the work, which is really challenging, because my tendency is, well, the more I work on it, the more I'm going to get done. And if I focus on it all the time, but the pulling away from it, the forcing myself to take the dog for that long walk, to go for a hike in the woods, to do all those things away when I'm not thinking about it, that's when all the incredible ideas come. And so I think that for me, the more intense I get, the more intent I get, the more focused I get, the less productive I can become. So it's important to back away and then rejuvenate and then come back. So that's what I struggle with every day.
Well, Lee Koonce, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Aaron. Thank you for inviting me.